Okay, good evening. I'm Lori Hines, the superintendent in District 15. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for a virtual webinar on our Moving 15 Forward initiative. Also with me tonight, you'll hear from her just momentarily, is our Chief Communication Officer, Becca Latham. Our CSBO, Diana McCluskey. At one point, I will turn the computer over to her. And also online tonight is our Board President, Lisa Shupai. Becca, I'm going to turn it over to you for the housekeeping and then back to me for the presentation.
All right, that sounds great. Thank you so much. And again, thank you all for being here tonight. In the chat, I'm going to shoot out to everybody a form where you can submit any of your questions. That way we'll be able to keep track of all of them, address as many as we can tonight, and also make sure that answers are posted onto our Moving 15 Forward website once this is over. We are recording this session tonight, so we can post it to our website as well for anybody that might not be able to join us here. And if you guys have any questions, like I said, I'm going to put it into the chat now. And I'm going to pass it on over. I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see the slides.
Wonderful. So again, tonight's presentation is about what has truly become a labor of love over the last almost 3 years to get us to this point where we have a proposal called Moving 15 Forward that our Board of Education unanimously approved at their August board meeting that we move forward with, placing a ballot on the November 8th election docket. And we have been really talking to the community at great length over the last 5 months. This plan has been in development for a number of years. And tonight I'm going to give you an overview of it. It has changed, throughout our feedback sessions. We've refined the plan. The plan you're seeing tonight is the plan that the board approved back in August. So it is the final iteration of our Moving 15 Forward initiative. So if you can move to the next slide, please. The agenda this evening, we've done welcomes and thank yous. I will tell you a little bit about District 15 because I'm hoping that not only parents are on this webinar, but many members of our community that may not know about District 15. We will make sure that we go into depth over the critical challenges and opportunities as we see the challenges to solve many of the problems that have been on the district's to-do list over a number of years. We see them as opportunities and we have fixes that we're suggesting. We will talk about those proposed solutions and the anticipated benefits we believe solving these longstanding issues will bring forth for the district. Diana will then talk about financial information and anticipated costs. She'll also try to explain something that's very complicated, the reassessment, the triennial reassessment in Cook County. We will share with you proposed site improvements at our schools and that process and how every school within our district, all 20 of them, stand to benefit from this plan. And then we will talk about the next month because really we're just about a month away from the November 8th election. We'll talk about the timelines and our next steps. So a little bit about District 15. We are the second largest elementary district in the state of Illinois. There are 852 districts in Illinois. We're the second largest elementary only to our close neighbors in Schaumburg District 54. We serve all or part of 7 municipalities. So we call the Big Four, Palatine, Hoffman Estates, Rolling Meadows, and Inverness. We serve those communities in their entirety. We service a portion of unincorporated Arlington Heights, South Barrington, and Schaumburg. We educate very proudly the 13th largest English language program in Illinois. So again, thinking of the fact that there are 852 districts, we have the 13th largest EL program in the state. 99% of our students are educated in district. That means a very small portion of our students requiring special education service are unable to be educated here in District 15 and might have to be therapeutically outplaced. And we are currently servicing 86 languages here in District 15. And the final stat, we believe that this plan has 100% of what is best for staff and students at the heart of it. This is a district map. A current map is 35 miles around. Within that map, you'll find 15 elementary schools within District 15, 4 junior highs, and 1 therapeutic school. Throughout the work of this plan, some of these stats will change, and we'll make sure to talk about that as part of tonight's presentation. Some other important stats about our district, being as large as it is we have over 11,000 students and pre-kindergarten through 8th grade. We have students that are uniquely and wonderfully diverse in terms of their academic needs, their cultural needs, and their socioeconomic status. And again, we've already talked about how, from a linguistic standpoint, we are also very diverse with over 80 languages spoken. To educate those over 11,000 students, we have close to 2,000 very dedicated and talented employees, teachers, paraprofessionals, related service and special education providers, bus drivers and nurses, nutrition services. Those are not outsourced in District 15. We make the food that we feed our students each day. We drive our own bus fleet. We have administrators, custodians, maintenance workers, and a host of other employees that make up our 2,000 staff members. And we do have 5 unions within our district. Back in 2019, when I became the superintendent in the district, we set a new strategic commitment and direction for the district. We identified 4 commitments, the first being to our students, almost over 11,000 of them, to ensure that academically, social, emotionally, and personally, they were growing. Our students come to us with a varying degree of readiness and abilities. We're trying to help our teachers differentiate instruction, which really means teach it in a different way, because kids learn at a different pace and at a different rate, and they come to school with different levels of readiness. Our second commitment, close second to our students, are our staff. They work very closely at the building level with our students. So we want to attract and engage through professional development and collaboration opportunities. Our staff, to retain them. We don't want them to leave District 15 for another school district. We like the fact that so many of our teachers come to District 15 and build their career here. We have been very focused over the last 4 years that I've been here on commitment number 3, making sure that our facility improvements and financial stewardship, those two go hand in hand, that we are really addressing the needs of our facilities. You'll hear a lot about that tonight. And that has, again, been at the forefront of this work over my tenure. It even actually started before I got here, and our board president will talk a little bit about that towards the end of tonight's presentation. And last of all, our results. Everything that we're doing, we really want to make sure that we're returning to our continuous improvement roots, and that we're constantly driving to make District 15 a better place for teachers and staff to work, for students to come and learn, and so that the community is proud of our efforts here. This is a video that we showed to the board back in April of 2021, when we were launching the first iteration of the plan. So it's about 4 or 5 minutes. It is an overview of this project. So sit back and enjoy learning a little bit more about the holistic nature of the Moving 15 Forward initiative.
District 15 was consolidated more than 70 years ago. Since its founding, we have become a destination district for our academic and social-emotional initiatives, as well as leading the way in literacy and culturally responsive practices. While we are incredibly proud of the work we've done academically, little attention or funding has been given to the operational foundation of the district, our 20 school buildings. Our decades-old boundary lines no longer meet our community's needs. Many of our schools are overcrowded while others are currently underutilized. This has created a variety of issues at our schools and for our community. We can no longer afford to ignore this problem. We see these issues as opportunities for our district. Improving boundary lines and enhancing facilities will help staff support students' academic and social-emotional needs and address concerns that the community has brought forth for decades. Realigning school boundaries is never easy. The outcome of this process will result in widespread improvements for everyone in District 15, not just for today's students, but for generations to come.
For the students, really, they're at the center of everything that we're proposing. We began probably 6 months of very deep and technical work in terms of looking at our current population, how populations age, how some neighborhoods are overcrowded at one point, and at 10 years later, they're undercrowded, and just looking really deeply at the community and pockets of students and how best to utilize our facilities.
Over the past 3 years, with input from community members, district leaders, and our elected Board of Education members, we've identified high-value priorities that speak to the community's desires and the district's commitments.
We looked at boundary lines. We got to a very granular level. We did that work in conjunction with all other facility work because we want to bring forward a package to the board and the community that's going to address all of our facility needs. We want to fix the problem once and for all, while also then bring some modernization to the facilities.
Through this process, District 15 identified goals we will achieve, all while keeping fiscal stewardship at the forefront of our decision-making.
There really isn't a curriculum made for half-day kindergarten. And that's the biggest struggle. Here we have this beautiful program. It is wonderful, and it's made for a full-day kindergarten. We are trying to make it fit into a half-day program.
We will expand our half-day kindergarten into a full-day program, following the lead of many surrounding school districts, and implement a middle school structure that will support academic and social-emotional development for students.
Currently, our system is set up where we have elementary schools that are K-6 and 4 junior highs that are 7th and 8th grade. When you only have them for a couple of years, it becomes very difficult to make those connections with the kids.
We will ensure all students have access to a neighborhood or near neighborhood school by creating a consistent flow from elementary to middle to high school.
So within our current boundaries, we have neighborhoods that are being split between 2 junior highs and also within 2 to 3 high schools. I'd love to see students have relationships that last a lifetime. With our current boundaries, students are separated at junior high and then again at high school.
We will balance enrollment to ensure no schools are overcrowded or underutilized.
The current boundaries in School District 15 are set in such a way that some students are attending schools that are very close to their homes, and other students are needing to ride on buses to get to schools that are further from their homes, even if it means passing a school along the way. This leads to schools that are either being underutilized, or we have spaces that are so overcrowded in our district that students are limited in the things that they can have access to.
Decades ago, programs were distributed based on population. While the population has changed, those programs have remained in the same buildings. By redistributing programs across the district, we can ensure equitable access for gifted learners, special education, and multilingual students.
We've gone from hundreds of bilingual students to thousands. I think our program would be more equitable if we were able to ensure that our students were able to receive programming at a school that's closest to their home with their neighborhood friends and in a place where their parents can actively participate in their education and be part of the school community.
What started as a project to readjust District 15 boundaries has unlocked a world of possibilities for our students. Our community has asked for these changes, and we have listened. Today, we can make our community's dream become a reality.
Wonderful. Thank you. Next, we're going to talk about the critical challenges that we set out to address, first identify and then address as a result of the over 3 years worth of work to get to this final product. Part of what we realized is that the number of schools certainly had an impact on our work. The capacity issues that you heard about in the video where we had inconsistent utilization of our schools was a real kind of big nut to crack. And then we also realized that we're talking a lot about brick and mortar building envelopes, what happens within the physical structure of the building, but we also realized we had classroom opportunities that we wanted this plan to help us address. So we have a very expansive footprint and aging facilities, 2 factors that we were working to solve for. We have 1.7 million square feet of interior space to clean, maintain, and update. So just think about that number, 1.7 million square feet of facilities to maintain. And unfortunately, through this work, we uncovered that deferred maintenance has really compounded the problems that we're trying to address, because for far too long, it became a long-term strategy for the district versus a short-term strategy that may typically be utilized. We have 80 acres of land that require paving, plowing, mowing, and upkeep. And unfortunately, we had fallen behind in that regard as well due to deferred maintenance. And then another factor that we had to take into consideration was the average age of our building was 54 years. On the next slide, you'll see the age of all of our buildings. But before we transition, the 4 pictures you see before you are pictures of actual District 15 facilities. And as you can see, they're in a great degree of disarray. And in many cases, they're quite dangerous. From a day-to-day perspective, having kids and staff and parents coming and going from our facilities. So this plan is going to allow us to address images like this and problems that we've identified very painstakingly. So here are our 20 schools. Our youngest school is Central Road. It's up at the top. It's 27 years. Our oldest school is GMS, and it's 76 years. For those of you that have been kind of tuned in to District 15 back in 2016, part of the then referendum was to close GMS because it was an aging school. The community, as you can imagine, didn't like that idea, but we paid particularly close attention to GMS when we did our facility analysis. And we determined not only do we not have to or want to close GMS, that we didn't need to take on a 21st school. Because again, back in 2017, 2018, the Boundary Task Force, when it was formed, started talking about a place called Park Place and said, maybe we need a 21st school in the district up in the northeast quadrant of Palatine to educate the nearly 20% of our student population that lives up in the northeast corner there. And we determined through this work that not only did we not have to close GMS, we didn't need to take on a 21st building and the in perpetuity costs that come along with having another school open. So some of the facility challenges, as you can see, we lack security cameras and monitoring systems that are woven through a modern PA system. And we knew then when we started this work several years ago that we wanted to bring 360 camera views to the exteriors of all of our buildings. We wanted to layer in more interior cameras to increase overall safety within our buildings. We wanted to allow monitors in our school offices, so staff that work in the office, the secretaries, the clericals, the principals and assistant principals, and even our nurses would be able to, at a glance, look at a large monitor and see whom is at what door and if anyone is approaching our facility. So this plan really will upgrade safety and security within the district. We have aging roofs, plumbing, and HVAC systems that are beyond their useful life. We have various degrees and schools that have accessibility issues. And in our facility video in a few slides, you will see that firsthand with an actual child that utilizes a wheelchair to move around the district. We found our libraries were quite outdated, as were our library collections. And in our elementary schools, our libraries were actually shuttered 50% of the time, meaning our children only had access to a library 2.5 days. And that didn't sit well with us as an elementary district. So our libraries, will be open full time and they will be modernized. We're hoping to modernize other learning spaces over time throughout the building to encourage more collaborative 21st century focused skills for our staff and students. Some of our schools have inadequate cafeteria and multi-purpose rooms, which cause them to run 4 lunch periods a day. In some cases, lunches starting as early as 10:15 or 10:30 and going till well past 1 o'clock. Without a multi-purpose room, that ties up our gymnasiums, and that really clogs the master schedule for an entire building. So it's a real difficulty on the principals and on our staff. Our lights are not energy efficient. Our floors, you saw in the video, are worn. In some cases, they're buckling. Ceilings are in varying degrees of disarray. The masonry is falling. Our building envelopes need some tuck pointing and work. As you saw in many of the photographs, aged parking lots, sidewalks, asphalt, and concrete. So this plan, through this work, we were able to develop a 5-year master facility plan, something that the district has really never had or let serve as its North Star. We now know at a very granular level where our facilities need help over the next 5 years. We've developed a 6 to 10. It's nearly finished. So we know how we're going to fix what's been ailing us, but we also have a plan moving forward to ensure that we never find ourselves, no future superintendent, board of education, community member, staff member will ever be faced with such issues moving forward, should this plan be approved by the community on November 8th. You heard in the video, our assistant superintendent for multilingual services talk very passionately about how not all of our students have access to a neighborhood school. And in most cases, the students that don't have access to a neighborhood school are students that are minority students. And in some cases, they are also our students that come from a lower socioeconomic background. This plan allows us to assign a home school to every student that is either in their neighborhood or close to their neighborhood, where their parents can access the school because they're in a closer proximity to where they live. Neighborhoods will not be split. So students that need to receive language support are traversing the map or the 35-mile boundaries to receive language support at a handful of schools. They're going to be able to receive the language support they need within a school very near to their home. We also have schools that are overcrowded and underutilized. You'll see a graph in a few slides that really illustrates the variance. Some of our schools are at 114% capacity and others are down to 76%. This plan balances enrollment across the district. Programs and services, we also dove deeply into where they are located. And in the past, programs were put in schools that were less crowded. Now we've looked with the help of the assistant superintendent for special education, for multilingual services, and for gifted education. We've really thought carefully about where to place those programs. So we have programs that are in need in Palatine. We have them in Rolling Meadows. Some of our programs are in Hoffman Estates. So we think very logical about where we placed programs. And then we have an inconsistent feeder pattern. You heard some of our principals talk about it. This plan takes away what's been a longstanding practice here in the district, where you may attend elementary school with your classmates, kindergarten through 6th grade. For example, Stewart R. Paddock, then those students are split into 3 junior highs, and then they're split again into 2 high schools. That is very atypical. This plan will allow us all of our schools to have a very linear and predictable way in which they matriculate from elementary school to junior high or middle school to high school. So here's the chart I was referring to. As you can see, Hunting Ridge is at 114% capacity. Willow Bend, Plum Grove are over 100%. And then you move below the line, the midline there at around 80 to 85% capacity. And you have schools like TJ or Winston Elementary that are 76 or 77%. Through the work with our partners at RSP, they're our boundary consultant group, they helped us really look at our population holistically. And we did have to move some boundary lines to balance out enrollment at all of our schools to around the 80 to 85% marker. Doing so allows us a buffer for new developments. If you're watching what's happening at Motorola, we will receive the kids in that redevelopment. If you're watching what's happening over at Arlington Park, if the Bears come to District 15, those kids are coming to Rolling Meadows schools. So, and if you're watching what's happening at Kinches, it closed, it was near SRP. That's going to be developed with low density, either condominium or apartment homes, but not single family. We know they're going to generate some children. So we took all of the future potential growth into consideration through a collaborative efforts of Schaumburg and the Palatine village officials. And we really think that we have solved the imbalance in our enrollment, but also we're looking forward to make sure that we won't find ourselves with schools that are overcrowded or underutilized in the years to come. So this just visually shows you how complicated the feeder pattern is from elementary to junior high and high school. And this plan solves this feeder pattern problem, which has been a long-standing request from the community. Back in 2017, a survey was sent to the community, and this was one of the top community values. When we resurveyed the community using core strategies, this also we reconfirmed that this was an issue that the community wanted us to solve, and we were able to do that. So some of the classroom opportunities. A number of years ago, we started working with the Board of Education to help them understand that as our student demographic is starting to change, so are their needs. And we began doing something called dynamic staffing, where we're staffing schools differently based on student population and need. Some of our schools have reduced readiness. Kids are coming to us having never been to preschool. So their kindergarten and 1st grade experience needs to be different because we're building some of those foundational skills. We have mixed access and achievement that we've been talking to the Board of Education about for a number of years. We have been focused on this prior to the pandemic. The pandemic didn't do us any favors. It widened these gaps academically, but it also increased the needs of our students in terms of their social, emotional well-being, their mental health needs, and in some cases, their behavioral needs. You heard me talk about the libraries. Our collections are outdated, the spaces are outdated, but so are our curricular materials. Why is that important? Because when we buy new curriculum, we're putting it in the hands of up to 1,000 educators. And that curriculum is then used with over 1,000 children. So again, expansive footprint. We're a big district. We have a lot of staff and students that need materials, and those adoptions come with them, a pretty significant price tag. Technology is one thing that COVID helped us with. We are now a 1-to-1 district. Every student in 2nd through 8th grade has their own device. Kindergarten and 1st grade, and most of our 2nd graders keep their devices at school, but our 3rd through 8th graders take them, back and forth, but that was an expenditure. And all of this, again, goes before the board for approval, but it's on our radar because we want to move not only the facilities forward, but everything that we're doing inside the facilities. I always call it where the magic happens, where teachers are working with our students. So this is a facility video. You will hear some duplication of content, but what I want you to focus on in this is the larger look at the needs within our facilities. They're going to talk a little bit more about full day kindergarten because this plan does bring full day kindergarten here. It also moves our 6th graders out of elementary school and into junior highs for a middle school conversion.
Our schools should not be in the level of disarray that they are, whether it's the carpets, whether it's sidewalks, lobbies.
When you look at the ceilings, the gyms, the overall appearance throughout the district, it's tired.
Boilers that are way beyond their useful life, they're ancient. We've got gym floors that have buckled.
Deferred maintenance is supposed to be a short-term strategy. Unfortunately, it became the strategy for the district for too long.
At present, 11 of District 15's 20 schools are overcrowded. Overcrowding brings with it a variety of complications, including larger class sizes at those schools. Addressing the overcrowding and underutilization of our schools will allow District 15 to balance enrollment across the district.
This proposal gives us an opportunity to really look hard at our buildings and find ways to utilize all of our spaces in the most efficient way possible.
The facility situation in the district is dire. We cannot kick the can any more down the road. We really need to make these improvements or it's just going to get more expensive over time.
We want schools that are modern, that are safe, that are clean, that inspire kids to learn, and facilities that we should be proud of. We know we need more interior and exterior cameras and higher levels of security that are woven through a more modern system. We do have students with a variety of learning and motor needs, and we need to be able to provide, buildings that they can fully access.
The major issue we have in buildings is that the opening is not wide enough, so when students or faculty utilizing wheelchairs need to go in or out of the room, they cannot do it themselves. We have some buildings that have to be upgraded, make the spaces, the openings wider, where they can come in. And once you do that, then they can go in and out of these doors as they should.
Many of our kids are coming to kindergarten after having a very limited and in some cases no preschool experience, so they don't have any real school readiness.
Kindergarten may be the first time our students experience school. Their readiness sets the trajectory of their educational pathway. In order to be able to educate the whole child, District 15 needs more time with our earliest learners. More time not only to implement the curriculum created for a full-day program, but also more time for intentional play and interactions to meet students' social, emotional needs.
Our teachers, although wonderful, are really in a daily race against time to cover the curriculum.
Moving 15 Forward supports a full-day program that would bring more opportunities to our kindergartners in District 15, which would further prepare them for first grade.
It's critical to me, and I think to the staff, that we bring full-day kindergarten here to District 15 as soon as possible. If you walk into any of our buildings right now, our sixth graders seem out of place. They seem too big for the building. They've kind of outgrown the elementary school.
Currently, our sixth graders are housed in elementary buildings. They are together with students who are in kindergarten through fifth grade. They ride the bus with the kindergarten through fifth graders. They attend recess with much younger students. The proposal with Moving 15 Forward would give them an opportunity to be in an environment that is more at their age level and more at their developmental level.
District 15's Moving 15 Forward proposal recommends moving sixth graders into the same building as seventh and eighth graders to provide all of our adolescent age learners time to learn with similar aged peers and participate in electives and sports, which aren't offered in our elementary school. Doing so allows our students to take advantage of all middle school has to offer and better prepare them for high school.
I think even more so now, spaces are very crucial to students. They want to feel welcomed, they want to feel inspired, they want to feel excited.
We want this to be the best district possible. We want all of our community to be extraordinarily proud of District 15, a community in which new homeowners are looking only here in the district because they know that we are offering the very best for our students.
So our planning efforts, we have spent a significant amount of time. Even a global pandemic didn't slow us down. We dug into this work. If you could go to the next slide, please, Becca. You can see, and I won't go through all the points. This will be available in video form and on the web. This began in 2015. Lisa Shupai will talk about it, and she potentially even talk about it now. But from 2019 to 2022, with this Board of Education and me as the superintendent, my team, we've been very, very busy on making sure that we're doing the right work. So we put a very strong plan forward for the community because we are deeply committed to doing what is the very best for all things District 15, our staff, our students, and the communities in which we serve. Lisa, I don't know if you want to talk about your experience because you were at the early part of this planning effort.
Oops, muted. Whatever
cannot
works
hear you,
for you,
Lisa.
Laura. Do you want me to talk a little bit now?
Is your sound all the way up on your computer?
Yes, it is. Can you hear me?
All right.
No. Is there any sound?
Yes, now we can hear you.
All right, perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Stephen. If you told me in 2016, really, that in 2022, I'd be talking to you as the president of the D15 Board of Ed, I would have been stunned and told you were pretty crazy. Back at that time, there were a lot of things going on in the district and in the community, and there were a lot of things that were building towards really where we are today. But the real why of me being here does go back to that time. There was a significant amount of effort being put in place to rectify some of the things that were going on in the district with regard to the long-term deferred maintenance that Dr. Hines has referred to already. At the point that I was seated on the board with a number of other community members, the budget then was about $2 million in maintenance per year across 20 schools and 3 outbuildings. And if you do the math on that, that's less than $100,000 a building to not only do day-to-day upkeep and maintenance, but also to make the capital investments, the roofs, the HVAC, the other things, changing out carpeting, tile, furniture that happens just with wear and tear on a building. 2016, the board at that time and the leadership had pitched a referendum that to all of us is most memorable because it was $130 million and it was pretty stunning at that time. And what we found as you went through the roadshow process, as Dr. Hines and I would call it now, because we've been doing it for much of this year, as you get out and they were doing the education of the community, I attended many of those meetings and was really surprised that the plan kept changing at every meeting. And what it really ultimately came down to is that that plan was good in some parts, and there were many needed changes that had to happen at that time, but it was really loose and it was ever changing. And as a pretty conservative taxpayer, I wanted to make sure that the money was spent in a good way. And the plan itself didn't feel like it was a good way. So full disclosure, I worked really hard at that time on the No Committee, working and fighting against that plan, but it wasn't the general idea of what was to come. It was just simply not this plan. No, not this plan. There were many, many needs, but there were also many holes in that plan, and we had hoped and anticipated that there would be a better plan that could come out after that. So in 2017, I ran for the board, and here I am now. And we have spent, as Dr. Hines said, the better part of from 2017 with an initial boundary task force to take a hard look at what was going on until now, the better part of 5 years, really honing and developing a great plan that we did hope would have been ready to roll a handful of years ago, but COVID got in the way of that. And so here we are 5 years later. It gave us a little bit of time and the grace to be able to really come up with something that was going to be good long-term for our community.
Thank you, Lisa. We won't go over the next slide, but this is just a visual representation of keeping our community informed. We have gone out, we do call it a roadshow. We want to make sure we inform, we engage, we seek feedback from the community. And the community has given us feedback. They've asked some hard questions. They've pushed back on some of the initial plan concepts, and it has made us go back to the drawing board in some cases, and it has helped us build a stronger plan. And I've said it all the sessions that I've done. Is this plan going to check every box for every person? And the answer is no. But should this plan, and do we believe this plan will check many boxes for most? Absolutely. And the community has helped us, get to that point. So proposed solutions and anticipated benefits. Back to that 2016 plan, some of the no campaign feedback was this plan doesn't bring something for everyone. Only certain populations or certain parts of the district benefit. So when we looked at this plan, we wanted to make sure that it was going to be a plan for everyone, for every school, for every staff and student, and it would touch and improve schools within all of our communities. And we boiled down our areas of improvement to 3 gears, and they work in unison, as gears should when they're well oiled. We want to repair and will repair and restore our facilities. We will update learning spaces and improve student transitions. You've heard some of this in the videos, but I want to show you beyond just words on paper, what we call the dot matrix that we've put together that breaks these gears down into more discrete by school, by system visuals. So this is gear 1, repair and restore facilities. Across the top, you can see our schools, kind of north to south. You can see the categories from building improvement to site improvements and the subcategories within them. The red dots just visually you can see our proposed improvements. The triangles are work that we have completed over the past few years. If there's a plus, the existing roofs, for example, do not require repair replacement, and so on. So you can take a peek if you live in a certain community and see how your school will benefit should the community vote yes on November 8th. Moving to the next slide, please. This breaks it down into some more discrete sub skills, but you can, and subsets of improvement. We believe this will help extend the useful life of our systems, increase that accessibility, bring health, safety, and security up, as well as energy efficiency. And we're going to repair and maintain and then fix things that have been deferred for too long. Again, these are pictures of District 15 boilers, and that is a science lab that has a hazard that was just never removed. And that's a small example, but there's little examples to big examples across all of our 20 facilities. Gear 2, update learning spaces that include libraries and classrooms. Again, schools left to right. Subsets of what that improvement will look like are broken down. We will add or improve science labs in STEM. We were going to need to reconfigure classrooms because we would be bringing full day kindergarten, which means we need twice as many kindergarten spaces. If our sixth graders head over to the middle school, some of our schools will get additions, will receive additions. We'll need some more or improved restrooms. Some toilets will need to be raised because older kids will be in spaces. Some will need to be made smaller because littler people will be utilizing them. But and we'll add science spaces, cafeterias, and multi-purpose rooms as needed. And we have done this work painstakingly with our architecture firms that have supported us through the development of these diagrams, as well as the 1 to 5 and the 6 to 10 year master facility plans. Full day kindergarten, you heard some of our wonderful kindergarten teachers talk about it. We will have more time to educate our young learners. If you could go to the next slide, Becca. This is a visual. Currently our kindergartners and our teachers have 155 minutes of half day kindergarten. And you heard me say in my video clip, it's a daily race against time. Imagine 155 minutes to teach 20 to 24 5-year-olds. A full day schedule is not glorified babysitting. It's 400 glorious minutes of time to teach some of our youngest learners. You can see in green, we will have more time for math instruction, more time for literacy instruction. In yellow, these are opportunities that don't currently exist because we don't have enough time that we will be able to add to the day. We are one of the few, if not the only school in the district or in the community that does not have full day kindergarten. And we have the right demographic. We have rich new curriculum, and we would like more time. We feel we need more time to teach it. The next slide, please, has to do with middle school. Moving our sixth graders over to a junior high allows them an extra year as adolescents to learn together. Some of our middle school teachers and administrators joined a book group led by the Association of Middle Level Educators to really help us dive into what a middle school could look like. We've learned a lot about the benefits of middle schools. And one of the things that we are working with our architects to develop would be a way to have a house concept where our sixth graders would be in learning pods together, our seventh graders, and then our eighth graders. Of course, there would be some shared common spaces, but we would be building tighter teams by grade level. So kind of schools within a school, if you will. Our sixth graders, we then believe we would be able to provide clubs. They would have access to athletics and potentially some STEM labs and whatnot, should we go true middle school, or they would have a modified middle school experience. And those are the things that we're hashing out right now with our teachers and our teachers unions, our consultants and our administrators, but we're excited about the possibility of allowing adolescent learners that extra year to really bond during those formative middle school years. And lastly, this is the student transition, Gear 3. All of our elementaries would go from K6 to K5. Our junior highs would go from 7-8 to 6-8. And you can just see some of the conversion information here. Okay. So this is our current feeder pattern. This plan, should again it be approved, will produce a nice linear feeder pattern. And this shows you how the elementary feeders at the K5, what middle schools they will feed into, and then how they will feed into one of 2 high school districts. So we service 211, which is Fremd and Palatine, and the Rolling Meadows portion of our district. Rolling Meadows High School is part of District 214. So our Rolling Meadows schools would go to our middle school in Rolling Meadows and the high school in Rolling Meadows. And I think it's an important point to make sure everybody understands we do not control the high school boundaries. We cannot change them, nor can we send kids from Rolling Meadows to Palatine or Palatine to Rolling Meadows. They create their own boundaries. So we have not changed them. And even if we wanted to, we are unable to do so. So this is the new proposed configuration. We will have all K5 elementaries, 6-8 middle schools, and we have 4 junior highs. You see 5 middle schools. Part of this plan creates or converts rather TJ Elementary in Hoffman Estates to a middle school, bringing for the first time in District 15's 70-some year history, a middle school to Hoffman Estates. So our Hoffman Estates students will no longer be transported into Rolling Meadows. They will have their own middle school. We have 1 therapeutic day school, and again, the 3 high schools do not change. These are our current boundaries. You can see the work and just visually from a color perspective, how we have streamlined and worked very closely with our boundary consultants to keep neighborhoods together and to assign neighborhoods that are connected to one elementary school. So our kids are not crisscrossing the district to access their elementary education. The maps look very similar at the middle school, and you see TJ Elementary in light blue. That is a new middle school that I just referenced. These maps are online if you want to take a closer look at them. I'm now going to turn it over to our CSBO, Diana McCluskey.
Good evening. I'm going to go over some financial highlights of the district pretty quickly and give you the main bullet points here. So on this slide, you'll see in the first circle, 3.9 out of 4. That represents the Illinois State Board of Education financial profile rating. Every district gets one. We're almost perfect at 3.9. We have very prudent fund balances. They're like your savings account in a district. The state, Illinois, the ISB again, recommends school districts have at least 25% of their expenditures in a reserve account, and we have about 35%. Moody's has given the district one of its highest credit ratings, AA2. And lastly, we have very low outstanding debt. We're capped at 6.9 out of something called the equalized assessed value, which is all the assessed value in the district. We have less than 1%. Revenue, the district is heavily dependent on property taxes, as are all districts in the state. 73% of our revenue comes from all the property taxes paid within our district boundaries. And then two other significant pieces of the pie are state and federal at much lower percentages, 11 and 13. This pie represents our expenditures. We are schools are a service industry. So 71% of our expenditures are spent on salary and benefits. We have about 2,000 employees and about 1,000 teachers and many other additional personnel to support those teachers in the classrooms. And then you can see on the pie, smaller pieces for our services, supplies. And then I just want to point out that our principal and interest very low, 3%. Again, that reflects our 1% of debt limit, debt outstanding. This pie here reflects that the cost of everything Dr. Hines has been talking about. The district can come up with 93 million. We can fund that through some bonds that we have already that will mature, issuing some extra bonds, and part of our operation and maintenance fund budget. So between those three sources, we have 93 million, but the November 8th ballot does ask the community to approve another 93 million. So a 50-50 split. This slide shows you a breakdown of the tax impact, the property tax impact on a fair market value of a home. And we have several thresholds here. 300,000 being the average, a little over 300,000 in Palatine, Rolling Meadows, and Hoffman Estates. The annual impact of these are approximate at this point because the Federal Reserve has been raising rates, but we want to keep them within this threshold. $146 is the annual impact of a $93 million bond issuance. Approximately around 146 or $12 a month on around a $300,000 home. And you can see the other values, estimated impacts. A lot of everybody in Cook County, in northern Cook County, in this area, in our district, if you are a homeowner, you mostly likely received your reassessment notice in the mail. And for so many people, not just in the Palatine Township, but in all throughout northern Cook County, our assessments have gone up. And it's partly because the value of our homes have gone up too in the last 3 years. These come out every 3 years. But I want to try to simply explain that the tax bills will not most likely go up as much as your assessment has gone up. Many are up 40, 50%, because the property taxes that we ask every year, we must submit an ask to the Cook County Treasurer's Office to levy the taxes to the owners, are capped. We are under a law called the Property Tax Extension Limitation Law, and it went into effect in the 1990s. And it caps it. It caps the amount we can ask to 5%, or the CPI, the Consumer Price Index that applies to that levy or that ask every year in December. So the current one, the last one was 1.4%. So the bills that will come out eventually this fall, they are late right now. They're capped at 1.4%, because that was the lower. You can only ask for the lower of 5%, or the consumer price index at the time of that levy. So I want to make people be aware that on the next slide, we will explain how if your assessment goes up, the tax rate on your bill will go down. But could you go back to that previous slide, though? I want to say one other thing, that unless you did a large improvement on your home, like an addition or renovation, that's a different story. But if you haven't done that, so your value will be reflected in the value of that addition or renovation. Okay, next slide. So this also just goes into explanation of what I've just discussed. And on the next slide is a visual, more of a visual, that the arrow is pointing that if the assessment value goes up, the rate has to go down, because it has to balance out. Again, if that's the lesser of the 5% or the one, but ours is the CPI, and the CPI is 1.4. So again, the rate will come down, so that it increases only at a 1.4% increase. I think that's it.
Thanks. Thank you, Diana. It's always complicated, but I think you did a nice job trying to take big concepts and simplify them. Wonderful. So proposed site improvements at our schools. All students in schools will benefit. We've made sure of that. Please go to the next slide. Hopefully what's on the left of my screen looks familiar to you. Every District 15 school student and community would benefit. The three critical gears that we've gone over. We've mailed this information to all of the households within our boundaries in multiple formats. So hopefully you have received mail from us, a number of comprehensive pieces of mail. It is really the only way in which we can engage and inform a very large school district. We have also created for each of the 20 schools what we call a school one pager. So every school has one created, and this is TJ. You can see it will have an addition, other proposed improvements on the preliminary concepts, its feeder patterns, and some of the proposed facility and site improvements. We've done this by school. All of the schools are on our district webpage, as well as each school page. So you can go to the Moving 15 Forward website to see all 20 schools created. So we've listened and learned. Hopefully you agree. We believe this plan is comprehensive. We've spent a lot of time ensuring that something for everyone will be found within this plan. It delivers on longstanding community and our educational priorities. It creates neighborhood or near neighborhood schools. It provides full day kindergarten for all of our students. We'll repair and restore all 20 schools. We'll update our learning spaces and libraries, convert our junior high to middle schools, provide that equitable access to EL services, special education services, or gifted services as needed, and it will resolve longstanding capacity issues. So you can stay connected in the next steps. We have just a little over a month until November 8th. Please, if you haven't already done so, visit our website. Know that should you choose to go to the polls on November 8th, you will see this proposition. This is the exact language that you will see on the ballot. This is done with the support of legal counsel. It is a very legally guided process. Everything on this proposition we must do should the voters say yes to our $93 million ask. So that is an assurance that we won't take the money and do something else with it. We must do everything that's outlined in this proposal. So you would need to watch for that if you're going to vote on November 8th for the District 15 section. Here's voting information. We want to make sure everybody that's out there understands where our precincts are, where you can vote, when you can vote. The proposition again is reiterated here. Our schools are closed. All Illinois schools are closed on Election Day, November 8th. And 10 of our schools will be used as polling places, as they always have been in the past. Here is a full page of where you can vote if you live within District 15 boundaries. And then I don't know if there's questions. Looks like there's a few questions in the chat.
So I'm going to stop sharing just so I can look at the Q&A really
Okay.
quick. Again, if you did have any questions, I put the question form in the chat previously. So we had one person ask, will sixth grade still be self-contained, or will students have different teachers and switch classes like the 7th and 8th grade students do?
Right. So we have already begun. Sixth graders are changing teachers this year. So we're calling it a slow rollout. So our sixth graders right now across all 15 of our elementary schools are changing teachers for math and science this year. And we will look into whether or not we are going to layer in another subject like ELA for next year. So we're giving them that modified, what we're calling a modified junior high experience now. So they mix with different students. They have experiences with different teachers that have different routines and expectations. So that's already happening, and we're going to hopefully layer in more of that next year, and then we'll see where we go. If this plan goes forward with a yes, we'll continue to build the plan for everything going live during the 24-25 school year.
Okay, and the next question was, which year would full day kindergarten start?
There you go, 24-25. It's not soon enough, in my opinion, but it would be 24-25.
And then the final question was, will any of the reserves be used for capital improvements, or will the proposed bond be used, or both?
So it's a combination of both. We're dedicating $5 million a year out of the O&M budget, correct, Diana?
Yeah, $5 million. So that's about 25, that is 25 million. And then we will issue 36 million, that is, of additional new debt. We call debt certificates. The repayment of that, the principal and interest, will come out of our current budgets. And then 32 million mature, our bonds that mature, and we will just reissue them. And they are already part of the what we call the levy, or the bond and interest levy. So nothing additional to the taxpayers.
Thank you.
All right, and it looks like we had one more come in. There is something for everyone, but is the plan equitable?
Oh, we absolutely believe it's equitable. Our assistant superintendent for multilingual services was at the table for all of this. As a 32-year educator, I would never dream of putting a plan together that wasn't equitable. I'm a lifetime educator, and that's what we set out to do, to make this plan improve the district, make it good for every student. And we believe it's a very equitable plan that will continue to move the district forward in a very bold manner.
And those were all the questions.
I have a couple of comments.
Okay, and then I was going to turn it over to you, Lisa, if you wanted to do closing remarks. And sometimes I know during board meetings you receive comments from your constituents or questions. I don't know if you have any, so floor is yours.
I had one question, and that's part of my my two comments that I want to make. The first one was a question from somebody with regard to facilities and maintenance plan, and how do we know that the board is not coming back to our constituents or our community for something else in a few years. And one of the things about this plan that is very impactful and was not part of the last plan is we have both a 5-year and a 10-year, so long-term facilities and maintenance plans that are part of this planning with a commitment to execution. And if we in fact had those plans in place with prior boards, prior leadership, we feel really strongly we wouldn't be in the spot that we are now. So we are committed to not only making the investment and fixing what we have, but also putting a care plan in place that ensures that we don't end up in this spot again.
Correct.
That was my answer to the question. Thank you for sending it in. The second point that I'd like to make is, going back to my commentary earlier about being not for the prior referendum. One of the things at the time in 2016 that I was not a proponent of and didn't really support was the concept of full day kindergarten. And in 2016, we were really going to be an anomaly. Nobody else in our area had full day K, and it felt like we were getting into something that we didn't have to get into. Where we sit in 2022 is such a different spot than we were in 2016. In 2022, right now, as of June, when Arlington Heights 25 passed their referendum, they left us as the one and only standing community right now that does not have full day kindergarten. So instead of leading the charge in 2016, we're now standing all by ourselves as a district that doesn't have full day K. And we have heard from many realtors in the district that is a concern. It's a real issue when young families are coming into whether our district or the surrounding districts, they're asking for that. So it's something that is certainly needs to be looked at this point, and should be something that's part of our portfolio. And my last comment, it's been 34 years since District 15 voters have approved any referendum dollars. 34 years is a very, very long time to not invest money into infrastructure. And day-to-day maintenance money is one thing, but there are serious infrastructure investments that have to happen, whether you're talking bridges and roads or you're talking school buildings and the things that impact our students and our community, our staff around those buildings, fields, parking lots, things of that sort. So it's really time that we take a hard look in investing in our infrastructure.
Thank you. And then someone, Megan Baker did ask, I noticed in the chat, how can we best support this initiative? At this moment in time, the answer that I can give is if you believe in this plan, you must go to the polls and vote yes. I can't tell you to do that, but to answer this question that's in the chat, at this point, that's what we need from the community. That's how you can, and everyone in the community can show support, would be to vote yes for this.
And voting is super important, Dr. Hines, as you know. I mean, that's the difference maker here. We have to have a passing vote, but in order for people to vote and to get out there, and they need to know about it. And it's been a hurdle that we see right from the very beginning. It's really, really difficult to touch people and engage people and get the information out there. Some people are paying attention and some are not. So if you have a belief in moving 15 forward, please talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, talk to anybody that's got ears that's willing to listen to you, and inform them. Let them know it's out there, and get people out to vote.
Right. An informed community is what we've been committed to producing. And that's why we've done a roadshow for 5 months, and we built a website, and there's all kinds of mailers that have gone out, and we're doing this webinar tonight and 5 more sessions throughout October. We want people to be informed so they can make an educated decision as to whether or not to support this initiative. All right. I don't see any other questions. Becca, are you seeing any? All right, well, thank you again for your time. Please submit questions to Board President Shupai, to myself, to Becca. We will populate the FAQ with questions we've received tonight. And we're going to post this on the web as soon as we can. So again, thanks for coming. Have a good night. And my fingers are crossed.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Dr. Hines.